This is very interesting. This piece by Cinema Blend is done by Sean O'Connell. This is the guy that wrote a book that supposedly was supposed to be charting the progress of the release of Snyder Cut movement. And he made good money off of the movement. And I say again that this guy is not committed to the movement. He was just committed to making money off of it. And he dips, he vacillates. And in this article, again, it shows his true intention. Basically, I'm going to say this. Sean O'Connell is not really interested in the SnyderVerse continuing. He is of the view, like Warner Brothers, that the universe should end. And this was Zack's glorious end or send off, and that Warner Brothers should have nothing to do with Zack Snyder anymore. You can tell Sean O'Connell is more of that persuasion than anything else. Now, be that as it may, because he was on record saying this, and as well he's on record saying other things, which we have. Now, does that mean that Sean O'Connell, though he has different interests for why he's covering the movement, that means that I should disregard anything he says? No, absolutely not. In a way, Sean O'Connell presents the situation before us, the reality of the situation as it is as of now. And there is nothing absolutely wrong with that. The only thing is he has a bias, and you can hear his bias speaking through his covering. So it's what I would call a fact somewhat piece, opinion piece, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to go through this article, and I'm going to go through it because I think there is a measure of truth in it, and then there are things which obviously are biases of Sean O'Connell. So let's go through it. So shortly after Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League landed on HBO Max in March, the campaign to release the Snyder Cut transitioned into a call to restore the SnyderVerse. Zack Snyder's 4-hour take on the DC's top superhero team ended in a tease with Darkseid, who was played by Ray Porter, learning that the anti-life equation that he seeks is on Earth, but Earth is now under the protection of a fully formed Justice League. What might happen next? Oh, Sean. Oh, Sean, oh, Sean, oh, Sean. That's the question. All right. I love it. Well, Snyder was asked recently if fans should maintain hope that he'll get to make the 2 Justice League sequels that he had planned. But his comments about the studio seemed to kill that dream dead. Again, he's posturing it a certain way. He's writing it, framing it a certain way. He said, I would think about it this way. Yes, Warner Brothers has been aggressively anti-Snyder, if you will. And that's, what can I say? What can I say? Clearly, they're not interested in my take. But I would also say that they certainly weren't interested in my take on Justice League. Right? The very first movie. They weren't. Right? They certainly made decisions about that. And they certainly did. And I love the characters. I love the worlds. I think it's an amazing place to make a movie. It's a glorious IP. So there's that. I don't know what could be done as you go forward, other than I think the fan movement is so strong. And the fan community is the intention is so pure. And I really have huge respect for it. I would hope that cooler heads would prevail with Warner Brothers, and that they would see that there's this massive fandom, that wants more of that. But who knows what they'll do. I like how he puts it. Because, see, I'll be honest with you guys, right? I am of the opinion that it's a certainty that we will get the SnyderVerse. I've said it a million different times. And there are people who have inside information who know it for a fact and have said they haven't heard anything differently, so that's what's up. And this has been going on since 2020. Okay? And so that you guys understand, Warner Brothers is not the entire company that is anti-Snyder or against Zack Snyder. Okay? It is, in fact, certain individuals. You will actually see Sean O'Connell actually speak to this very soon. It is not. You have to understand the SnyderVerse that is coming forward really has very little to do with the SnyderVerse, save for certain characters that, well, to be fair, Dave Sandberg actually gave a lot of tribute in his Shazam to the SnyderVerse. Okay, all right. Dave F. Sandberg, he really tried his best to give as much tribute to the SnyderVerse and still give that family vibe, that warm vibe, that kind of thing. So there was a lot of callback to that because remember, Shazam lived in a world of heroes, so he had to pull. But he tried to be. They kind of had to minimally do that. I can tell that Dave F. Sandberg, if he had his way, would go full tilt Zack Snyder in terms of referring to everything in BVS. You can tell he's a fan. Okay. Now there was a directive, nothing to do with Justice League, right? So you know how it is. Having said that, the Hamada-verse doesn't really have much to do with the Snyderverse. What do I mean by that? I mean to say Walter Hamada can go on with his movies, except the Flash movie. If it seems as though Walter Hamada is trying to get some retro version of uh, DC because he feels that by getting that version, he'll be able to sell toys. Okay, the whole idea is they want to make DC movies for family. It's obvious that's what they're trying to do. Hamada is trying to course correct that, whereas Zack Snyder is more giving you a very good movie, right? That's grounded and so on, and that's what brought this new audience to the table of DC. The audiences that watch the CW and they watch, Supergirl and that kind of stuff, and you notice all of those entertainments, they're on the decline as usual. Those people, that audience that like that kind of stuff, they don't really like clearly what Hamada is bringing to the table, the Shazams, because what Walter Hamada is trying to do is make low budget movies or movies which have the pathos, the comedy pathos beats, which is why James Gunn has been brought on to do the Suicide Squad. Now it's very important that James Gunn does well with the Suicide Squad, but I think he will. Even though there's a lot of competition at that time of year, I think he's still going to do okay. Will it be a blowout of the park, knockout like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or 1? Probably not, but it will be something solid. That much I can tell you. And depending on how good James Gunn does it and pulls off the role, because he loves Suicide Squad, that was his thing. He wanted to do a Suicide Squad movie. Depending on how he pulls it off, will help Hamada's cause. But that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that they're going in a different direction, which is okay. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to appeal to a much wider audience, which is not going to work, but hey, go for it. You know what I mean? Do your thing. But somehow there's the feeling, and I think it's led by Toby Emmerich mostly. I don't think this is led by Walter Hamada per se. That they need to scrub away anything that had to do with Zack Snyder from the universe. So since Justice League, they've been trying to get rid of Zack Snyder. And I remember there were trades that were putting out, yes, DC needs to get rid of Zack Snyder. So I truly do believe that those trades were reflecting certain executives in Warner Brothers, like Kevin Tsuchihara, like Toby Emmerich, because Toby Emmerich has an issue with Charles Roseman and the budgets, the amount of, the volume of, the amounts that are asked for to make these movies. But in addition, I think also that just to go into this a little bit more detail, I think that Toby Emmerich and of course Jeff Johns, out of jealousy, he did not like Zack Snyder and the approach Zack Snyder was doing with the movies because it wasn't his ideas and he wasn't being advised. I think these petty little things came into the equation. So it was Kevin Tsuchihara. Oh, these movies are too long. This guy just makes too much long movies. And his movies don't make the money that we expected. Right? So Kevin Tsuchihara was like done with Zack Snyder from a long time ago, since Man of Steel. with respect to because um, Kevin Tsuchihara and guys like Jeff Johns and who's polluting and corrupting other executives' minds, and Toby Emmerich, they're of the view a movie doesn't need to be so long. It doesn't need to be 3 hours. It doesn't need to be 4 hours. We just want a director that can do a normal sized movie, have decent humor. Okay, let's just get that humor and just make it a simple comic book movie that everybody can come see, enjoy themselves, and leave. So this is the way how they're thinking. And just like how they would be, I guess anybody who's not into DC characters, what are we doing an extra Joker movie for? They already have a Joker. We have a Joker. Why do we do that? And how many toys are we going to sell with this, right? And they'll keep on saying that over and over because what they really want, what Warner Brothers really wants, they reject what they are, okay? Warner Brothers Pictures has a bunch of executives in there who just want mediocre movies where people can come, have a good time, they make quick money, they make a profit, and families come see it, and then they go and they buy toys and buy merchandise. Okay? This is what Warner Brothers actually wants. This is what it's all about for them. This is what they're striving towards. This is what they brought Walter Hamada to do. And they're saying, well, look, Marvel did it, so we just have to copy Marvel and that's it, right? And that's all. They don't care about quality movies anymore. They don't care about none of that stuff. All right? And that mindset has been so since Man of Steel. All right? And Jeff Johns made that happen. So mediocrity is okay. Just make the movie, make it make some profit, and that's it. And that's not how Warner Brothers used to be under the leadership that was before these guys. All right? And so they're running down the property as a result. Okay? But what I'm saying is that even so, we saw a really horrendous Wonder Woman movie in terms of action. It was just terrible. And I don't know if his Patty ran out of budget. I don't know what happened. But it was a horrible movie. What I do know is this, that a good movie and a quality film and something actually saying something is hard to get in Hollywood to start with. And then secondly, with Warner Brothers and with Walter Amada, it looks like budgets are more important than good movies. Just make a goddamn good movie. That's all we need. Okay? And the problem with it is we're not getting that. Okay? When we look at Walter Hamada, however, and there's a big old hoop-de-ha mess going on with the Flash. The Flash is not, I'm pretty sure the Flash is not going to turn out very well, but it is what it is. But Walter Hamada, his universe is not, because Warner Bros. Is trying to move away from the SnyderVerse, it's not the SnyderVerse. And apparently the SnyderVerse is Elseworld, somehow, some way. Don't ask me how. It makes no sense, but don't ask me. And so it's separate. So for Zack Snyder to continue the SnyderVerse is easy because, as far as they're concerned, Zack Snyder's SnyderVerse is separate from Walter Hamada's Hamadaverse. This is why both can exist. Because by them saying, okay, we're not doing nothing, we have nothing to do with the SnyderVerse. Okay, now I don't know how that's possible because if you're going to have the Flash movie, Flash is going to continue from somewhere. And if he's going to continue from somewhere, the only thing I can think of is you're going to try and retcon and try and destroy the SnyderVerse through the Flash. And that's the way how you're going to try and knit the whole thing neatly together. And I wish you good luck, buddy. I don't think you're going to succeed with that. But what I can say is, if they keep the Flash as, yes, he looks like Ezra Miller from the SnyderVerse, but he's a different Flash, and this is just a totally different story that has nothing to do with the SnyderVerse, then it's separate. And the same actor can have two different roles in two different universes. He looks the same, but he's a different person. So this is one way of doing it. Because there's continuity with Wonder Woman, there's just a lot of continuity. So It's going to be tough for them, I think. And we'll see what James Wan can do with Aquaman because he was successful, but it's still iffy. You know what I mean? The second Aquaman could be pure shit, or it could be something that's attributed to the Snyderverse. And this is where Dwayne the Rock Johnson is saying, no, 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 no. We're not going to disregard the Snyderverse. We're not going to do that. We have been drawing everything from the Snyderverse. All these characters come out of the Snyderverse. We're not going to disregard it. In which case, that works too. The Hamadaverse can work with the Snyderverse. It's just more of an upbeat take on similar stories. So, either way, how you look at it, Warner Bros. Trying to get rid of the Snyderverse really is not beneficial to them. And the Snyderverse makes money. Okay, it's made money globally. It made AT&T invested what, $70 million. They got back their money. Guarantee you that they made back their money. Okay, that for sure, and they're making profit right now. With respect to the Snyderverse and how much it's globally making and earning, we could work that out. We could work out the mathematics somewhat, but it's kind of hard to do because some of the places it's hard to get figures. You can get estimates, but you won't really get actual figures. But I can tell you in China right now, that thing's somewhere near in the vicinity, somewhere close to $200 million. Okay, it has made, and that's big money. That's bigger money than Batman v Superman made. Batman v Superman made $95 million. This shit is close to 100 million to $200 million, somewhere in that vicinity. This thing made. So I'm telling you right now, the Snyder Cut is a success because I'm pretty sure HBO Max, even though it doesn't translate like that in streaming. When they're streaming, where people are purchasing things, is totally different. And there was purchases made in the UK. There was purchases made by me, by Google Play, Apple TV, iTunes, and it was just killing it with those things. I don't know what it's ranked on iTunes right now. I can go back and check. And then in addition, it killed it in India, it killed it in Germany, it killed it in Russia, and it just killed it in different countries. Okay, and there's no way you're not making money off of that. Now they try to focus on the U.S. figures, but even in the U.S. figures, it was successful. It hit 37 million homes. The only thing to go higher than it in terms of households, which is all we care about is households, is Mortal Kombat, right? Mortal Kombat's the only thing that hit more homes than the Snyder Cut. Not even Godzilla vs. Kong. Godzilla vs. Kong had 36 million households, which is not 36, 3.6 million. Okay, that's not bad. Now those are just projections. Obviously, the actual figures are probably tremendously bigger. Otherwise, Warner Brothers Pictures would have done already. It'd have been in the trains how it had failed and all of that stuff. But they're trying to, couch it a certain way so that they say that it didn't do what it was supposed to do, but it did. It brought in subscribers, 2.7 million subscribers. Most of the subscribers were brought in by the Snyder Cut. Let's not forget also the subscribers that came in the quarter before because of the Snyder Cut and then ended up watching Wonder Woman, right? So I believe at the end of the day, probably brought in 5 million. 5 million, maybe double what we see here. So about 5 million subscribers, maybe more. And that's crazy. Now, with respect to continuing on with the Snyder Cut, this is what um, um, Sean O'Connell had to say from Cinema Blend. So Zack Snyder will never fully come out and say to his fan base to stop asking for more movies in the Snyderverse. He could. He respects their passion too much and appreciates the undying support that they continue to show for his take on Justice League and that universe. But by admitting in his interview with a Real Blend co-host Jake Hamilton that the studio who holds the rights to the DC characters is anti-Snyder, all but explains that the logjam created by the studio between Snyder fans and their production pipeline is not going to clear anytime soon, or without a major changing of the guard at the studio. Now, Sean O'Connell was very careful to put that in, and the reason being that there's going to be a major changing of the guard, and that's going to be Toby Emmerich's going to be removed, so that's going to happen. But this, again, we all kind of know. We all kind of know that the setup as it is right now is not going to allow for the Snyder Cut to be, you know, to be to bring forth the SnyderVerse. Okay, as it is right now. Now, let me just say, as of now, may be different because Toby might be already being stripped of his office and stuff, and there could be a transition going on right now as we speak. But Toby's just trying to manipulate the trades as it works out. He could be, being set to the side already. So, but here's the important thing to understand, that this is the big thing. This is the big story here, that Zack Snyder is a hopeful guy, obviously. But if he knew that there wasn't a chance in hell that the SnyderVerse couldn't come forth, he would say so. This is where I disagree with Sean Connell. Zack Snyder is not just hopeful. Zack Snyder is smart enough to understand what this real situation is. That there's one more person of the old guard, Toby Emmerich, that's standing in the way of the SnyderVerse coming back to fruition, and it not happening. It's one more piece that needs to be removed from the puzzle, and then we're free to go. Zack Snyder even went further, which Sean Connell didn't cover, to say, yeah, you can cover 2 IPs. I can be doing Dawn of the Dead on Netflix, and I could also be doing Justice League. I can do both IPs. Fans can watch both. And similarly, I would go as far as to say you could have 2 universes. You could have the Hamadaverse and you could have the Snyderverse, and fans could watch something from the Hamadaverse and something from the Snyderverse. Now, I learned that Black Adam is not part of the Hamadaverse. I'm also learning that the Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman, is not really part of the Hamadaverse either. And I remember Matt Reeves saying that. So, the Hamadaverse is made up of James Gunn's Suicide Squad, Super Pets, The Flash, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman 3. That's the Hamadaverse. But Matt Reeves, the Batman, is not part of the Hamadaverse, and Black Adam is not part of the Hamadaverse. So that's interesting. But Walter Hamada oversees those movies. Now, why this is important is because what I wanted to show you is I'm interested in seeing Black Adam. I'm going to say that unapologetically. I'm going to be seeing Black Adam in the studio, in the cinemas. Okay? We'll be supporting James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Not interested in Matt Reeves' Batman. Not interested in The Flash. Not interested in Wonder Woman 3. Not interested in Aquaman 2. It's sad, but I got to say it like it is. And those are pretty big IPs. However, what I can tell you is, if the Snyderverse is restored, Walter Hamada will get a lot of support. And even if the movies are crappy, we're going to at least go once in the cinema and see them. Because James Gunn's Suicide Squad is going to benefit, and that's why I tell you it's going to be a success, from Snyderverse fans going to watch his movie. Regardless of how they feel about him, they're going to support him. You know why? Because James Gunn supported us. And defended us. And there's no way in hell I'm not going into the cinema to watch James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I'm going to do it. Absolutely. I'm not changing my mind. I'm going into the cinema and watch his movie. He is going to succeed. He's not going to fail. I will make sure he does not fail. That is the way how things must be. And that's why I'm telling you right now, when it comes to the Hamadaverse, which the only thing I'm probably going to really support is James Gunn's Suicide Squad out of the whole entire Hamadaverse, because I'm not interested in Super Pets. I'm not interested in The Flash. I'm not interested in Aquaman. I'm not interested in Wonder Woman. Maybe they can change my mind. Maybe James Gunn could change my mind about Aquaman. We'll see. I don't know. But basically what I'm saying is that, not James Gunn, sorry, James Wan. Maybe he could change my mind. You never know. But what I would tell you is that supporting things, imagine Walter Hamada realizes the Snyderverse is an asset, and he says, "Hey, okay, let it be. Let the Snyderverse be. Y'all gonna have those movies over there, but we're gonna have these over here." Let me tell you what that will do for Warner Brothers. I gotta say it because I know I'm talking pretty long. I'll try and do shorter videos in time. It gives you everything you could ever want out of Warner Brothers. If the Snyderverse exists, fans like myself are going to be able to enjoy what brought us to this universe. And then, in addition, fans who like the lighter, more bubbly, things for kids and all of that in the cinema, they get it with Walter Hamada. That's the best of both worlds. And only a selfish person, only a person who believes that only they can do something, only somebody with big ego, an egotistical person, will block that from happening. It could be the best thing that ever. Just imagine if Ann Sarnoff said, you know what, the Snyderverse did great. We're going to greenlight Justice League 2 and 3. Oh my God. Do you know how that changes everything? We'd have gone into the Flash movie. People looking forward to the Flash because the Flash shone so brightly in the Snyder Cut. People were looking forward to Aquaman 2, Wonder Woman 3. And said, oh, hey, these be crappy movies. I don't care. We're getting this. Because why did I watch Wonder Woman 2? I watched Wonder Woman 84 because I knew we were getting the Snyder Cut. That's why I went into the cinema to watch Wonder Woman 84. It was shit, but having said that, I watched it because I knew we were getting the Snyder Cut. And you got to be out of your, and look how much Wonder Woman benefited. It did very well, at least not so much in the cinemas, but in terms of in streaming, because people watched it, and a lot of Snyderverse fans watched it to support it because of Gal, and two, because the Snyder Cut was coming. Now imagine this. And this is why I don't understand Warner Brothers. It's so stupid. Listen, man, Justice League 2 and 3 is not going to happen now. Right? It's not happening next year. That's not going to happen. You can't. It takes too long to do production for a movie like that. It takes a little while for everything to be put together properly. So that means Justice League 2 has to come way down the road. We're talking about like 2020, at the soonest is 2020, the end of 2023, the beginning of 2024. Okay? You can't get Justice League 2 any sooner than that. So, there's a build up to Justice League 2. You got the Snyder Cut fans saying, oh my God, Justice League 2 and 3 is coming down the pike. Now they're willing to pay for anything you give them, just like the Marvel people when they had to get Infinity War and Endgame, because they have something to look forward to, something down the road to get them excited. That is what Warner Brothers and the Hamadaverse does not have. And telling us about J.J. Abrams, come on, that don't get you excited, man. I'm not saying he's not a good director and everything, but we saw what he did with Star Wars. We're not excited for that. What gets the DC fans excited right now is Zack Snyder. So slighting him is a stupid thing to do. And just because some of you guys have an issue, executives have an issue with him, which is so stupid and frivolous and petty, we're not having this. That's why they have to be removed. Because all they're doing is taking the company down a road that ends in disaster. And AT&T knows this. And a lot of people on HBO Max side knows this. And even people in Warner Brothers know this. This is not rocket science. So, yeah, Sean O'Connell said there's going to be a major changing of the guard at the studio. Okay? Let's keep it moving. Instead, Warner Brothers is betting big on movies they have created in the wake of transitioning off of Zack Snyder's version of Justice League. That would include sequels for Shazam, which is not going to make no money. Okay? Shazam Pro is not going to make no money. Okay? It is what it is. And Aquaman, good luck on that. You saw what happened to Wonder Woman too. The introduction of Black Adam the Rock in his own movie, that's going to make money. But that's not part of the Marvelverse. And The Flash with Ezra Miller, which is a big old fat mess and it's going to go to shit. which is expected to explore the concept of a multiverse for DC and supposedly erase the SnyderVerse. Naturally, Snyder fans are taking this news harshly, blaming Warner Brothers for burning the bridge that could have led to Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3. As JL said here, seriously, what is wrong with Warner Brothers? You're losing support from me and other fans with each passing day. HBO Max, AT&T, start putting your foot down on this crap and fast. I feel a boycott movement is on the rise. Restore the Snyderverse, toxic Warner Brothers. And again, this is not doing anything for fan morale, and therefore, if your fans are not fired up, your IPs are going to go to hell. Okay? You're not going to succeed. You're going to fail, and miserably. And, I was listening to my boy Prime talk about, a black Superman supposedly to get the black community in. The black people are going to come in behind the black Superman, Not necessarily, buddy. That's identity politics you're talking about. That's the old school way of thinking. People need to know that what you're saying or doing benefits me. And just giving anybody a black Superman is not enough. You got to come with a Superman that's innovative and literally culturally relates to the people you're talking to. That they can see themselves and their lives in that Superman. Otherwise, you can say what you want. You can say you have a blue Superman, for crying out loud. It don't really matter. You might as well say that. It's not a good sign when your fans are speaking negatively about your company. They're supposed to be fans of your company. And it's a very bad sign. And, we had another article that was on this, a very good article by a lady. And she's pitching the same sort of words, and you can see the same sort of sentiments by Sean O'Connell. Snyder leaves a glimmer of hope, saying accurately that Warner Brothers had no interest in releasing his vision of the Snyder Cut, and that is currently available on HBO Max. He's right. Warner Brothers never was going to release the Snyder Cut. Okay? And it's even worse. I keep on saying this, and I like this article because that's why I'm trying to speak to it. Even though Sean O'Connell, he's thinking probably it's the best case scenario would be for Zack Snyder not to continue the universe. And I'll tell you why he's saying that. It's because, one, he had to go through such difficulty and such tough relationships just to get the Snyder Cut out, just to get his version of Justice League out to begin with. Because, once again, Warner Brothers never approved of his stuff. So, after Man of Steel, Warner Brothers did not approve of his Batman v Superman. Warner Brothers did not approve or trust, not all of Warner Brothers, certain executives I'm talking about, didn't approve or trust of his Justice League, which is why they tampered with it and destroyed it, right? Because they're trying to push for these family-based films. They're trying to be like Marvel, which they'll never be like. Warner Brothers can never do it, and they'll always fail until they go back to their roots. And here's the sad thing about this. The sad thing about this whole thing is we have other companies putting out movies. Netflix has Jupiter Legacy. Amazon Prime has Invincible. And they're going the route that Zack Snyder, they're going worse than the Zack Snyder. They're going an even deeper route than Zack Snyder with their stuff. And you know what's the amazing thing? None of these characters were introduced to you. It didn't take 4, 5, 6 movies for them to be introduced. All that bullshit about, hey, MCU, you gotta get to know these characters 4 or 5 things, and it takes some other. That's bullshit. It's rubbish. And these people have been preaching to you the wrong thing and lies. Because we're having these episodic series, and we're having these movies, and they're coming out with all the characters. And you get to know them immediately. So while Warner Brothers is scratching their asses and deliberating like fools with the greatest IPs ever, other companies are speeding on. Sony has Venom, Carnage coming out in cinemas. They're speeding on ahead. And Sony used to be the crappiest studio out there. And now Warner Brothers is running everything down to crap because the people who are managing, the executives who are put in charge, don't know what the hell they're doing. All they know is we don't want Snyder. We don't want Snyder. That's all they know. So stranger things have happened, but it's feeling like Snyder's Cut was the gift meant to placate the fan base. This is Warner Brothers. That he's giving his slant on it because it's a feeling. It's feeling like this is his opinion that like the Snyder Cut was a gift meant to placate the fan base, who instead took it up as a challenge to ask for more, only to be met by a studio who regularly reminds them that they have no interest in continuing anything in this universe. Again, really, it's nothing new, right? The studio has, since Toby Emmerich's been there, constantly been trying to move away from Zack Snyder. Okay? Once Greg Silverman was fired from his position as president of Warner Brothers, Toby Emmerich took the reins, and Toby Emmerich went full force into what Jeff Johns wanted him to do. In fact, Jeff Johns and John Berg were head of DC Films for a minute because of that. Okay? And mind you, there's a lot more going on with Justice League than meets the eye, and it's going to expose a lot of things. Now, since certain things are put into effect, I expect Walter Amato to carry on with his SnyderVerse. Okay? I expect that. He's going to have a shot at the big movement that he's supposed to be doing. Obviously, he's trying to retcon the universe. And that's his whole plan. So he's sort of carrying on some of what Jeff Johns and Toby Emmerich, John Berg, Joss Whedon were doing. Okay? If you haven't realized, that's what they're doing. So far, the universe has been crappy, if you ask me. It's not my taste at all. Shazam's probably the best of the films that were made, and they all look cheap, and they all look, oh God, there's no thought put into anything. All right, and it's sad, but I guess certain people like it, even though it has not been very profitable so far. They'll blame it on COVID, I guess. But continuing onwards, they saying that this is to placate the fan base. I understand what they're trying to say, but clearly the fan base already knew, and even I spoke about it. As the Snyder Cut was movement was towards restoring the SnyderVerse. We all knew this. We knew that David Ayer's Suicide Squad would be sort of the transit point to getting more movies done. And because we want to rectify injustices, that's why we were pushing for the SnyderVerse. But the thing about it is the SnyderVerse is just superior to anything Walter Hamada has on his plate, and he knows that. If you look at the Arrowverse is not gaining fans; it's losing fans. Right? The younger people are looking at manga. They're not even looking at superhero movies anymore. For crying out loud, they're looking at manga and all those other things. And it's a whole new generation that know about Marvel more than anything else. Not even DC. DC properties have gone to hell, and that's only because, thanks to these assholes who took power and screwed up the DC franchise. Guys like Jeff Johns who created a graveyard for DC. DC was something up to 2016. DC was something. Okay? After Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, DC was still something. They were the new boys on the block, so everybody was grilling them, but DC was something. After Wonder Woman and after Justice League, DC was shit. DC's properties went to crap, and Marvel took over. And since 2017, thanks to Toby the asshole Emmerich, we now have very little that we could talk about with DC without having our heads in shame and being sad. And while on TV they explored Infinite Crisis and all those shit, it was always shitty the way how they went about doing it. And some people were excited by the concepts and stuff, but to me, it was just all shit. The story wasn't bad, but the way how they delivered the story was crap. Okay? Marvel does a better job with their episodic stuff than DC does. And Marvel actually has darker depictions of their characters than DC does. Not to say that it's deep. It's not deep character dive into characters. It's just more gory and much more violent the way they did their stuff. Having said that, gory and violence don't mean shit to me. It's always about death. And so, obviously, at the end of this one, you look back and you say to yourself, why is DC so shitty? And then you realize the people who are responsible for relaying DC to the public, they're shitty too. And that is why DC has been the way it has been. Some of the people, they've been involved in production for many, many years, but they never evolved and they never really progressed. And they know how to do identity politics, but they really don't know how to walk a day in the shoes of someone who is of a different culture, race, sexual orientation, etc. from themselves. And that's the sad thing about these token service depictions. Warner Brothers is so way behind the ball, it's not funny. And so, and a greatly changing world in which we have streaming and so many other things going on, they're left in the dust. And we got these clueless execs who know nothing about the DC properties making decisions for them. And it's so sad because they think they know what they're doing and they don't know what the hell they're doing. I just wish AT&T would just clean house completely. You know, I'm just saying my wish. Wish you just get rid of all of them. And just start a fresh slate with Jim Lee, Zack Snyder, and some top VP or administrator who really knows how to work along with directors and with the system of Warner Bros. To get a really good result and to recruit the right people. And if they want to transition to have a balance between pathos and humor, then probably that person would best understand that there's a diverse DC base and you can't make one movie to satisfy everyone. And so they can have different strains of movies and still these movies could connect with one another. And some not, like the comic books. And so I do not understand why they wouldn't allow the SnyderVerse to exist in this environment, because this environment obviously is not well planned. Clearly, throwing an Aquaman 2 movie or a Wonder Woman 3 movie out there without any kind of plan is sad. These are all detached movies. They're not connected to one another in any way. Shazam was sort of connected to BVS. And it's just a mess. And then they probably want to try to make, this new breed of superheroes. But by then, will anybody be caring about superheroes? The superhero genre has done excellently well since 2009. It's really come into its own by 2012. But it doesn't look like it can sustain and maintain itself any further, no matter what Kevin Feige says, because Kevin Feige's running out of material, one. And two, though this universe is great to explore, the people who are truly creative are being pushed out of the business so that you only get one kind of movie all the way through. The lack of variety and the lack of creativity is what is leading to this fatigue. People are going to have fatigue, whereas Zack was bringing something such fresh and new and different and challenging every area, and also inspiring so many other directors to direct other movies. We see Invincible being put out there. Of course, J. Oliver is doing the great stuff with his stuff. We see comic books being influenced by certain storylines of Superman and Batman that we saw in Zack Snyder's Justice League 2 and 3. So you see a lot of people inspired by what Zack is doing. Yet at the same time, we have a studio with certain execs in it. Let me just make it abundantly clear. Not all the execs. Who are so foolish and short-sighted that they can't see that this guy, and they're impatient as well, they can't see that this guy is transforming the industry and transforming the way our comic book movies are done, and manga, and anime. And he's trying to get into Japan and China and the Asian countries because they have such advanced thinking and advanced, they would understand and appreciate. They cannot see what Zack Snyder was doing all along and how much of a visionary he is. And it's sad. It's very, very sad. That's why those people need to go. Pack your bags and get the fuck out of Warner Brothers. You know, they need to go. So this is what I got to say. This is an unfiltered video. And I'm going to put it up as unfiltered video. It's pretty long, but I needed to talk about this. I'm going to come with some more really good news concerning Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I'm also going to talk a little bit more about Army of the Dead, because today is Army of the Dead and it's trending. So I'll talk about that as well. But even though this video was long, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave your comments below. Subscribe, share, and I'll catch you guys later. You can also donate via Western Union or MoneyGram. Peace.